morning, students. I'm Krishna Rao, CSE department. I'm handling the compiler design for the 5th semester. Today, we will discuss definition terminology for the first unit, Introduction to Compilers. Our first unit is Introduction to Compilers. So today, we will discuss the definition terminology for the Introduction to Compilers. So, in the definition terminology, the first one is a compiler. Here, what is a compiler? Compiler is a computer program that translates code written in one programming language to another programming language. Define a compiler. That is the first. So, a compiler is a computer program which translates computer code written in one programming language into another programming language. Means that it will convert high-level programming language source program to low-level programming language. Right? It converts high-level programming language to low-level programming language. That is machine understandable code, so that the system can execute the program. Define interpreter. An interpreter is a computer program that used to directly execute the program instructions. It directly executes the program instructions written using one of many high-level language. So here, the interpreter, the high-level language program will be executed directly without a translation. Define translator. A translator is a program that takes as input a program written in one language and it produces output a program in another language. A translator is a program that takes as input a program written in one language and it will convert into another language. So, the translator forms are this compiler and interpreter, right? So, what are the types of translators? There are 3 types of translators: interpreters, compilers, preprocess. So, these interpreters and translators are the different types of forms of the translator. Now we'll discuss. What is a compilation? A process that translates a program in one language, that is source language, into an equivalent program in another language, that is object or target. So compiler is a program that translates source program into an equivalent target language program. A compiler is a program that translates a source language program into an equivalent target language program. So that source language, high level language program, and target language is machine language or assembly language program. So compilation is a fundamental concept in production of a software. Right? Compilation is a fundamental concept in the production of a software. It is the link between the abstract world of application development and low-level world of application execution on machines. Right? So, a compilation is a link, a concept, a link between development and execution on the machines. So, A source program by using a translator will be converted to target program. The translator might be a compiler, a interpreter, or a preprocessor. So compiler will may generate the other messages. It may generate other messages. An important part of compiler is error showing to the programmer. So if any errors occurred in the source program, it will generate error messages to the programmer. Right? Executing a program written in high level programming language is basically of two parts. Executing a program written in high level programming language is basically of two parts. The source program must first be compiled, translated into an object program. The source program must first be compiled, translated into object program. Then the results object program is loaded into memory, executed. The resulted object program is loaded into memory to execute. Right. Interpreter. So an interpreter is closely related to compiler, but it takes the source program and input data. It takes the source program and input data, but that interpreter will not translate. It will not translate one form of the source program to another form of the source program. Just it evaluates it and gives the output. Simply, it evaluates the source program and gives the result. It won't convert one form of the source program to another form of the source program. That is the interpreter. Right? So that is the interpreter. So we can see what are the different differences between a compiler and interpreter. Both are the translators. Both are translators only. But there are some advantages, disadvantages between these compilers and interpreters. If we consider the input, it takes an entire program at a time. Compiler will take an entire program at a time. It takes a single line of code or instructions at a time. Right? It takes a single line of code or instructions at a time. Right? So input is it takes an entire program at a time. It takes a single line of code or instruction at a time. Right? Line by line execution is the interpreter. Complete program execution is the compiler. Output. It generates the intermediate object code. It doesn't produce any intermediate object codes. Simply that high level language will be in the high level language only, but it results the execution. Here compiler will convert into object code, then executes and gives the results. So next comes to the working mechanism. Compiler read and analyze the program. The compilation is done before execution. The compilation is done before execution. Translate to semantically equivalent program in another language. Translate to semantically equivalent program in another language. Right? So read the analyze the program. The compilation is done before execution. Translate to semantically equivalent program in another language. But interpreter, it will not convert. Simply, it is read, analyze, and execute the statement. Simply, it will analyze and execute the statement. So, interpreter will not convert one form of the source program to another form of the source program. Memory. Memory requirement is more due to the creation of object code. So in compiler, it have multiple phases. There are 6 phases of a compiler. So compiler required a software for all the 6 phases of a compiler, and also it required a memory for the source program and all the intermediate forms and the final object code also. But when you consider interpreter, it doesn't require all to store all the different forms. Simply, the high level language source program will be in the high level language only, so that it cannot be converted. It cannot be converted to other form. It need not to be converted, and it will not convert to other forms. So it requires only less memory to have the interpreter and the software program at that high level source program. Code automation. The compiler sees the entire code at a time so that it can modify, it can update the code such that the resultant code run faster, such that the resultant code will run faster. When you consider interpreter C code line by line so that automations are not possible in the interpreters. So in compiler, it will see all the statements at a time, so it can be updated. But when you see the interpreters, it cannot see all the next statement. It cannot see the next statement. Only it can see and analyze the current statement only. So it cannot perform the optimizations on the code. Speed, compile time, overhead. Here, when you consider the resultant object program will be executed faster and give more performance and efficient than the interpreter, where the interpreter it will execute the program line by line, but a compiler converted once and might be optimized, so the execution will be more faster and efficient. Error detection. In compilers, finding the errors and correcting the errors, it's a little bit difficult. But if the interpreter, it easier comparatively. The interpreters are easier. We can find the errors easily and we can modify. So the examples for the compilers are Fortran, COBOL, C, C++, Java and all. When it is for interpreters, PHP, Perl, Python, Java and all. Right? So these are the different example languages which uses the compilers and interpreters. Here, if we consider Java programming language, its motto is to write once and execute anyway. For means that write the source program in Java, write once, and you're able to execute the program on multiple platforms and systems. It is possible with the interpreters, but there is some drawbacks in the interpreters. The execution and efficiency of the compilers. It uses both the just-in-time compiler which convert Java source program to Java bytecode. Then it uses the interpreter Java virtual machine which interpret the bytecode and evaluate the programs on all the systems, any platform or any machines. Define lexeme. Next. Here, a lexeme is a sequence of characters in the source program that is matched with the pattern of a token. Right? A lexeme is a sequence of characters which have certain meaningful word. Right? It is a word which has some certain meaning. Right? It's a matches it is recognized by some pattern of the token. Right? So what is a token? Token is a sequence of characters that can be treated as single logical entity. Right? Token is a sequence of characters that can be treated as a single logical entity. Define pattern. A set of strings in the input for which some token is produced as the output. This set of strings are described by a rule called a pattern. The set of strings is described by a rule called a pattern associated with the token. It is associated with the token. So, here the lexical analyzer will read a sequence of characters and groups them as lexemes and divides as tokens according to the pattern as rules of the programming languages. So it will divide it as the keywords, identifiers, constants, operators, like that. Right? So the sequence of characters are grouped as lexemes, are constructed as tokens with the help of the description of the token is pattern. By using the pattern, it will group the lexemes into tokens. So, list some compilers. Ada compilers, Algol compilers, basic compilers, C# compilers, C compilers, C++ compilers, and COBOL compilers, and Java compilers. So these are the different forms of the compilers. It is a pair consisting. What is a token? Token is a pair consisting of a token name and an optional attribute value. Token name with attribute value. So what is attribute value? It is a pointer to refer this token entry in the symbol table. So the lexemes are stored in the symbol table. Right? The lexemes are stored in the symbol table. Right? And it is given as some name, keyword, or identifier, or constant. So the token name refer type of category, which type of logical unit. Attribute value refers to the a location in the symbol table. It refers to the a location in the symbol table. So a lexeme is a sequence of characters in the source program. A lexeme is a sequence of characters in the source program. Right? So it is a given expression. Now the lexemes are, and its respect to tokens, right? So E is a lexeme, is identify one. It is stored in the first position in the symbol table, right? Assignment is an assignment operator. M is a identifier. It is stored in the second position of the symbol table, right? It is stored in the second positions of the symbol table. So multiplication. Multiplication is an operator. Exponenter. C is a identify 3, right? 2 is a some constant. Then semicolon. Semicolon is an operator, right? Pattern is a description form of a row. If we considered a keywords, integer, if, else, everything is considered as keywords. If it is identifies, it may be defined as letters followed by letters or underscore followed by letter digit underscore. Any number of letter digit underscore. So that we are defining here. Letter or underscore, letter or underscore is followed by a letter digit or underscore. Any number of letter digit underscore. Here the letter is represented as capitals or small letters and the digits are represented as 0 to 9. Front end. Define front end. The front end analyzes the source program and produces the intermediate code. We are saying there are 6 phases of a compiler. The 6 phases of a compiler are divided into front end and back end, where the front end, which consists of phases which convert the source program to the intermediate code, so that the intermediate code might be used or analyzed by other phases of a compiler. Then, what are the specifications of a token? There are 3 specifications: strings, languages, language, a regular expression. Define language. A language is a set of strings on certain alpha bit, closure of alpha bit, right? A language is a set of strings. The strings are constructed. The strings are constructed from closure of the alphabet. From the closure of alphabet. So a language is a subset of the closure of alphabet. Star closure or clean closure of alphabet. Then, what is a regular expression? Regular expression is an algebraic way to represent a language. A regular expression is an expression which represent the language, which represent a language. So here the phases of a compiler: lexical, syntax, semantic, intermediate code generator, code optimizer, code generation. So here these phases we are grouped as 2 forms: front end and back end. We are divided as front end and back end. The phases of a front end are lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator. Intermediate code generator. This front end will convert the source program to intermediate language. It will convert the source language to intermediate language. Later, the backend will convert the intermediate language to target language. The backend will convert intermediate language to target language. Here, these phases will interact or coordinate with other handler and symbol tables. These phases are coordinated store the information and access the information with the symbol table and also with other handler. Regular expression is a declarative way to express the string to describe the some language accepted by finite automata. Some language accepted by finite automata. They are primitive regular expressions. The primitive regular expressions are mainly three. Is a regular expression denoting the empty set. It is a regular expression denoting the empty set. It is the epsilon, a regular expression for empty string. Epsilon is a regular expression denoting that it contains the empty string. For every symbol in alphabet, for every symbol A in alphabet, A is a regular expression for language containing A. Right? So, A is a regular expression. A is a regular expression for a language containing A. So, these are called as primitive regular expressions or building blocks. Now, if A and B are regular expressions, then A union B, A concatenation B, A closure, the clean closure are the expressions are constructed using the basic or primitive expressions. So, if A is a regular expression, then parenthesis of A also a regular expression. A is a regular expression, then parenthesis of A also a regular expression. Right? So, it's a union property, concatenation, and clean closure, and regular expression. So, these are the different expressions we can be construct using the primitive or basic regular expressions. Define automata. Automata is defined as a system where information is transmitted and used for performing some functions without direct participation of the man. Right? Automata. Define automata. Automation is defined as a system where information is transmitted and used for performing some functions without direct participation of the man. So, the difference between compiler and interpreter. So, already we have discussed previously. The main difference, a compiler will convert high level to low level, where the interpreter will not convert high level to intermediate level. So, simply it will directly evaluate the source program. What are the main functions of the parser? It checks the and it checks if the tokens from lexical analyzer occur in pattern that are permitted by the specification of the source language. Then it constructs the tokens a tree-like structure that is used by the subsequent phases of the compiler. Right? So here the main function of the parser is to check the tokens constructed by the lexical analyzer is it in the correct form, is in correct form as specified by the language, and also it will group the tokens into a syntax trees or parse trees or simply tree like structure that is used by subsequent phases of a compiler. So the lexical analyzer which read individual symbols from the source code into tokens. It will convert a sequence of the symbols into a tokens. Define phase. Phase is logically interrelated operation that takes source program into one representation to and produces the output in another representation. Right? A phase is a logically interrelated operation that takes source program in one representation and produces output in another representation. What is a loader? Loader is a program that places programs into memory and prepares them for execution. So, loader is a program that places program into memory, means assign memory for all the variables and statement or temporary variables for expressions such that it make them to execute. List the properties under which regular languages are not closed. So if subset, superset, infinite union and infinite intersection are the not closed for the regular expressions. So these are the phases of a compiler: lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, code optimizer, code generator. A phase is a logically interrelated operation which change one form to another form, where lexical analyzer will convert sequence of characters to the tokens. Syntax analyzer, the tokens into the parse trees or syntax trees, tree-like structure. Then semantic analyzer will convert the tree structure into executable form of the a abstract syntax trees by checking they are executable or not. These abstract syntax trees are converted to intermediate code forms by intermediate code generator. This intermediate code will be optimized by giving optimized intermediate code. Then finally, the code generator will convert the optimized intermediate code to the final machine code. So here, what is the regular expression for strings without two consecutive ones? There are no consecutive ones. Here, regular expression for all strings which may begin with either 0 or 1 and without consecutive 1. Right? So, 1 or epsilon, okay, we say as 1 or 0, but it might be followed by either zeros or 0 ones. It will be followed by zeros and 0 ones so that they will not be any two consecutive ones. What is an identifier? Identifier is a string of letters followed by letters and digits. Then define pass. Here pass is a complete single scan of the source program, right? A complete scan of the source program. So the traversal of a compiler through the entire program is known as pass. Define one pass compiler. A one pass compiler is a compiler that passes through the parts of each compilation unit only once and immediately translating each part into final machine code. So one pass compiler means it will read the source program only one and it go through the phases of a compiler and is converted directly to the final machine code. Right? A pass refers to the traversal of a compiler through the entire program. Right? So there might be one pass compilers or two pass compilers. So these are the different phases of a compiler. Then pass we refer as single pass compiler or two pass compiler. Define multi-pass compiler. A multi-pass compiler which convert the program into one or more intermediate representation in steps between the source code to machine code and which reprocess the entire compilation unit in each sequential pass. So a multi-pass compiler which converts the program into one or more intermediate representation in steps between source code to the machine code. Define synthesis phase. The synthesis phase generates the target program with the help of intermediate source code representation and symbol table. Right? Synthesis phase will generate the target program with the help of intermediate source code representation and symbol tables. Define regular expression. It consists either two consecutive zeros or two consecutive ones. So it may start with a 0 or 1, but it must follow by either two zeros or two ones. And it is followed by once again either zeros or 1, any number of zeros or ones. Then this is a regular expression which consists of two consecutive zeros or ones. So multi-pass compiler. So this is considered as a first pass. This is as a second pass. So this second pass we may also call as synthesis phase, which convert intermediate source code to a low level machine code. So the first pass will have these phases and second pass will have these two phases. What is a regular language for regular expression? A plus. A plus means one or more number of A occurrences. One or more number of occurrences is represented as regular expression A plus. Define analysis phase. The analysis phase reads the source program and splits into a multiple tokens and construct the intermediate representation of the source program and also indicate the syntax and semantic errors of the source program. Right? So analysis phase. The phases of a compiler are 6 phases. The 6 phases are divided into 2 forms. This is the first one is analysis phase. This one is considered as synthesis phase. Analysis and synthesis. So the analysis phase will take the source program, will generate the intermediate representation. Then define backend. The backend is nothing but a synthesizer, the target program from the intermediate code. It will convert the intermediate code to the a target program. That is a backend. Frontend is nothing but analysis phase. Backend is nothing but synthesis phase. So these are the definitions and terminology for the first unit of the compiler design. So I am closing this section now and thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.